January 4th meeting of the Liquor and Gaming Control Committee. We have 9 items on our agenda today. I've been asked to pull number 5, 8, and 9. Any others from the committee here? Any other ones from the audience that would like those pulled? Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second from Alderman Berg. So that would be a motion for consent on items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Anything else pulled? Okay, call the roll, please.
Withis?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Shemento?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Hedberg?
Yes. Okay, item 5 is the limitation on the number of retail licenses. This would be the cap removal. Alderman Sitma, you pulled this one.
Thank you, Mr. Hedberg.
We need a motion.
I think
We need a motion, please.
Yes. With that motion, I would actually make a motion to table this specific item just for further consideration and research into some other options rather than voting on the one that's before us today, to which I have handed out some information on one of those proposals.
So a motion to table, second by Alderman Shemento. Any other discussion here?
I just, perhaps, Mr. Chairman, just to further some of the other ideas that have been both presented to me and some of the other ideas that I've researched. The reason to table this is simply coming out of the ad hoc committee. What was before us really, I think, presented an idea that came from an ordinance that was put in place a very long time ago. Looking at what was proposed in front of us with the application fee, quite substantial, to me eliminates any small business from being able to operate within those guidelines of that application fee of $150,000. Coming up with an idea of an application of $1,000 per seat of occupancy with a cap of $120,000. Again, I've handed this out to all of the committee members, and I will, of course, allow anybody else to take a look at some of my ideas. But what I wanted to do is to get all of the committee members to take a look at this and some other options, because this is quite a substantial ordinance that is before us that I think is going to have a significant impact on the community, not only in the short term, but for the long term. And I don't think, at this point, I think it's a little premature for us to blast forward with just a limited number of options in front of us. Let's take one more month to really kind of define what it is that we want, not only from the business community, but from the community as a whole on where we want to go with our liquor ordinance on this.
Would you care to highlight some of the points in your recommendation here?
Taking a look at this and looking around at some of the other communities from not only North Dakota but the upper Midwest, seeing some of the positives and negatives, some of the ideas that were brought to me, kind of mulled around and then even kind of evolved. Taking a look at, of course, the cap and removing that, and then with that, $1,000 per seat of occupancy with a maximum application fee of $120,000. The example to that would be if we have a 50-person occupancy on a business, it would be a $50,000 application fee. Now, the issue with the grandfathered, the 29 different licenses that are on the books right now, allowing them to do a one-time transfer, i.e. sell that license for any value that they choose, so that they still hold that value to any prospective business that does want to open up, whether it be a liquor store or a fully functional bar, that they would still retain that value of up to $120,000. And I think that was a significant issue that we were working forward within the community, that there is a value there to them, and that the city of Minot is tied to that. This maintains that value, but it also does give the city then a sunset date that is not specific in the future, to where that transfer then is good to the next owner, and then after that it would be turned back to the city if that license were then ever I guess put the business ever closed. I'll put it that way. What the per seat of occupancy does give us is it does give us the ability, I think, flexibility within the business community. It's not a one-size-fits-all. To that, whether it's a big business or a small business, I think it really helps kind of better acclimate to saying that we're open to not just huge facilities coming in with a large dollar amount backing them, but if it is something that's smaller downtown, obviously $150,000 to them doesn't fit a business plan. The per occupancy would. Now the issue of, okay, let's say a business does open up with a 30 seat occupancy, a $30,000 application fee, and then later expands, and then what then? That issue was brought up. Just like within a building permit process, a permit is pulled for the expansion of a facility that would have a liquor license, then the applicant would have to come back with that liquor license and then amend that liquor license to reflect the new seating capacity, and i.e. that application fee would have to be updated. With that, then also just removing the separate licenses that are required for the liquor licenses, which is a liquor and then beer and wine. It's a redundancy. Everybody that has a liquor license out there right now also has that beer and wine license. Cut out some of the paperwork, combine the two for the full liquor license, and then just add the fees to reflect the combination of the two. For the most part, that kind of is a very condensed idea of what my proposal would be. And lastly, one piece that was brought to my attention from somebody who I gained a lot of respect throughout the years within the public education and awareness. Margie Zietz had brought it to me about the training for the bars and bartenders, waitresses, and things like that. I find it something that could be extraordinarily beneficial to put a mandatory training for all of the liquor establishments in town for serving. That is a program that is offered right now through the Minot Police Department, and is also looked on very favorably by the insurance community. But it could serve as a very good checks and balances within our liquor licenses as well, to make sure that they're not only aware of what the ordinances are, but they have the training then on not only what can be safely done within that establishment, but also get an idea of what the laws are if they do have any questions.
Mr. Sitman, how about like off sale? How would you handle off sale capacity if, I don't know, obviously they don't have a seating capacity, but.
Well, and that was a question that Ms. Hendershot and I had talked about over the phone, as I had some questions regarding legality. What can we do? Can we separate out the licenses? And really it comes down to, right now the licenses, and if I misspeak here, maybe Ms. Hendershot can correct me, but there is a value both in on sale and off sale with those licenses right now. It's one license that can do both. So looking at that property, functionally, I don't think we can separate them out. So right now we leave the licenses as a one license, on sale, off sale within this permitting process. On the occupancy side, I have asked the fire chief to take a look at the occupancy for the retail side of the off sale to see if that is still something that is conducive for this proposal, so that we don't have an occupancy level that is only 50, but for square footage wise far surpasses that of any bar establishment or liquor establishment that's out there serving on sale. So that is one piece that I will have cleared up by the next committee meeting. But it would be the same license as it is now.
Okay. Any other discussion? Can we take public input? Is anybody from the public want to speak to this proposal? It's obviously we've got some time to discuss, but if you'd like to come forward, you can do that.
Melissa Francisco, 4901 10th Avenue Northwest, Minot. Just put a mint in my mouth, so hopefully I'll be clear. I wrote down what I wanted to say so I don't go on a tangent and different things like that. But I'm new in the game, and I'm just wondering what's driving this change. I know that at least one business in 2015 was pushing for this, and at the time that might have been a valid argument, and because there was a boom, and there was a there was a boom, and it was a valid argument, but the boom is over, and the population has become less. I would also like to know why is it still a valid issue? If it was 2 years ago, why is it still valid today that we're still talking about this today? As you all know, there's many businesses in town, and a lot of them have not survived the economic downfall, not just in the food and beverage industry, but in almost all industries. In the July meeting of this council, Chairman, and forgive me if I mutilate you guys' names, the chairman of the board brought up the issue of alcohol license and revision, and I think it was you, Alderman, I'm not going to say your name, that suggested an ad hoc committee. And again, I'm trying to figure out why. What's driving this? And I dare not say your name. Even though you, Councilman, agreed to the committee, you did say, with things being the way they are now, and I'm assuming because the economic decline, those are the exact words that you said, he said that things being the way they are now, we don't have a lot of people knocking on our doors the way we did a couple of years ago. I'm asking, why are we opening doors that are not being knocked on? Why are we pursuing something that has taken up time, resources, and energy from the city when there's nobody knocking on the doors? And if there are, who are they? There's a 28 license that they can knock at if they want them. Okay. And why are we straying from the census? I believe that the census in the order, let me start over. I believe that this ordinance was put in place to protect our family-friendly communities and those of us who have purchased the liquor license. All of these licenses at one time were auctioned off by the city to the highest bidder, who obtained them as property. Now, all of us who possess these licenses or property see them as assets. We see them as our livelihood. We see them as our retirement, and we also see them maybe as an inheritance for our children. I talked to the city. I want to know, is there significant data or reasons that the city believes that there will be a huge surge in population that will mandate such a change to the ordinance that we already have? Is there something that's proven that there's a reason that we need all this? I spoke to the city of Bismarck today. They have this exact same, well, pretty much, I won't say exact, but pretty much the same ordinances and regulations that we have here in Minot. Their last liquor license went for $300,000 plus. It was auctioned off by the city as property for over $300,000. Bismarck has a population of approximately 43,676 persons. That is men and women over the age of 21 up to the age of 85. Bismarck has 23 Class D license, that's on-sale, off-sale license, with another 17 beer and wine license. Minot has a population of 27,901 men and women over the age of 21 to age 35. We have 28 of these licenses, and then 22 beer and liquor license, or beer and wine license, sorry. That means we have 15,775 less people than Bismarck. And we have more of these licenses. So why are we asking for more? I got my status from Southern Stats, so to let you know where I got those numbers from. Minot has approximately 89 different food, bars, clubs, and venues where we can go have a drink, a meal, or both. So again, I'm asking you, what's driving the need for change? What's the issue that's being put forth that there needs to be a change? Can Minot's infrastructure support this? Will it be economically or physically productive for our city? Is there enough places zoned for new bars, bottle shops, or whatever is to come? Or are we going to create a greater workload for our already overworked, under budget city? How will the change in this ordinance improve our city or enhance the retailers already in business? I believe Bismarck is a valuable mentor for us. They are growing responsibly and reasonably with their population. Since 2011, Minot has seen major changes. Many people have suffered many things and many heartbreaks. This city has had to do things out of desperation to support their population to regain their economy and livelihood. We had to run before we were able to crawl. Now that things are no longer booming, I believe we are coming to what I would call a sustainable and normal growth. Let's not make decisions that will set us backwards or impede true, honest growth that we can all be proud of.
Thank you, Ms. Francisco. Any questions or comments for Ms. Francisco?
I think I'll just follow up on that, Mr. Chairman, just a little bit, especially on where this came from. It was earlier this fall when we had talked about a lot of other issues that were driving opening up the entire ordinance book to take a look at it, including things like fencing out onto the public right-of-ways, along with some supper clubs. These issues had come up over time. If we remember just a year ago, the liquor license issue at one of the establishments that was operating improperly, to which the city had to shut it down. I think there was more than enough reason to take a look at a lot of these ordinances over time. Where this one specifically came up, it has come up time and time again as what the perception is, that this is such a closed market that there is no opportunity here, at least perceptively, to a lot of the outside folks. Now, who has been knocking on doors, to answer the one question specifically? I think one of the gentlemen that had spoken at the podium several times, Mr. Walski, is, the door hasn't been knocked on a lot, or at least openly, to find out who it is, because it's known that there's just not a lot of opportunity here. And I think that's one of the big pieces for me to take a look at this is, are we restricting business? Are we saying that we're only going to have so much business, or at least have such a closed cap on that business for this one specific sector? Now, Grand Forks has proven with no cap that they're still running roughly the same number of liquor licenses that we have right here. The market dictates that. Open market dictates that. I don't have a problem. I don't think this is being opened up and looked at to say that we're trying to get an establishment on every corner. I think what we're trying to do is responsibly take a look at this, is taking that veil off that we're just going to be closed and that we're only going to allow so much, and that we're going to say who, when, and where. That I think just taking a look at making things a little more forward-thinking, and don't get me wrong, change can scare people a little bit, but I think if we do it responsibly, and that's why taking a look at tabling this for another month and taking a good look at not only this proposal but other ideas that are out there as well, so we can make a very well-informed decision moving forward, whatever that is.
And I'll follow up with some of those points. I agree with several of those with Alderman Sitma, but I think last year when we looked at the supper club issue and last, it'll be a year ago, this past summer, I think it was, we felt really rushed through that whole process. And I don't know that it came out the way everybody wanted it to. And I think this gives us another chance to look at some of those things. One thing with the current ordinance, it is based on the census numbers. And you know, from Minot's history in 2010 with the census, we changed a lot in 4 years from 2014. We're now changing somewhat again, and by 2020 we're going to be a different city, and so it's not real responsive to changes within our population. I think that's one thing, but that's why we're looking at it. Maybe nothing comes out of this as far as caps and per capita and so on. But I think it's very healthy for us to at least look at it, and like we probably will make some changes. We've forwarded some on to the council already today for their consideration. This one is right now being considered for tabling, so for further review. Any other discussion?
Dave Humphreys, 2801 8th Street Southeast, Minot, North Dakota, owner of Bootleggers. I guess I would propose, if the city absolutely demands or thinks there's such a need, then why don't the city come up with the money to buy us all out and let us get in under the new regulations? Pay us what we got into it. We got guys in this room that have paid $300,000-$400,000. We've got guys that paid $250,000. Letting somebody in for $120,000 or $50,000 or $40,000 is just not right. We have made an investment that is being stripped. Investment is thrown away. So I would say make a proposal that if you guys absolutely think that we need this change to happen, and we should ask the chief of police and the fire chief and all the city, can they handle more bars? Do they want more bars? If anybody out there is thinking that, you know, we're making millions, we're not. And nobody's come knocking on my door because I'd sell. And I'm sure there's a lot of us right now that would. So I would just say make a proposal that if there needs to be change, you pay us for what we got into it, and we'll come buy your $120,000 license again and still put a couple $100,000 in the bank, and then we'll be able to operate just fine. But really, we are losing an investment that we made.
Mr. Chairman, and that was a question that I'd actually asked in one of the ad hoc committees from the representative from the association, is there a list out there to find out who has paid what? So when we were deciding, even on that ad hoc committee that had passed on that $150,000 application fee, to find out what the average value of that investment was, we never got an answer back.
Okay, there is no list out there because it's all a private purchase. I mean, you buy something from somebody, nobody knows what it's sold for. There probably is some licenses out there that are, you know, 30, 40 years old that are 50, 60,000. But there's grocery stores and there's bars and there's new bars like us that have paid substantially more for our licenses. I mean, if you wanted to pot them all together, we'd love that figure, because I know of 5 grocery stores or more that have paid $300,000-$400,000 for each one of them.
One follow-up on that, and one of the pieces of information that I had put into as an addition on that was the amortization of the goodwill and other intangibles for the IRS tax codes, and that was one question that was brought up during the ad hoc committee as well. Is, you know, is this a depreciable asset? And under IRS code, the couple of different accountants that I had reached out to and said absolutely it is. Does that play into that investment? Has that been depreciated over the 15 years as stated in the IRS tax code?
Well, our city ordinance having this limit of licenses has not depreciated one license in the city of Minot, ever. You couldn't go buy a license for $120,000, I guarantee you. I mean, it may be depreciated, but we've had a city ordinance for, I don't know what year it actually was made, but we've had a city ordinance forever. And we're up to our census numbers, we're up to everything. So I just don't understand the reason for wanting to expand it and taking away the investments of the bar owners and and just, it's not depreciable right now. If you do what you want to do, sure, it's depreciable, because at 120,000, I won't even get half my investment back, not half. So and then occupancy. I mean, so now you can open a bar up with, seating of 50 for 50,000. That's a pretty good gig. I guess I would like to know why this has come up, what the drive is, because like I say, we have a bar association. Nobody's knocking on doors to buy licenses, because nobody wants to play the game. Nobody wants to make the investment to get into the business that was set on our Sydney ordinances of how many bars, how many beer and wine licenses. And I'm assuming that there's probably a few beer and wine places that seat that 30, 40, 50 people that are not going to be able to pay the $50,000 for the license that you're proposing, that are paying the $300 fee right now a year. They didn't have to come up with it to get their beer and wine license. There wasn't the one-time fee that we had. So maybe some research needs to be done there. How many of them places are going to shut down because they can't come up with that 30, 40, 50,000 to keep into business?
Just for clarification on that, the beer and wine wasn't included within that application fee for that seating.
I
That
thought
would
you
be
said
only
that
for
everybody was going to be one.
That would be for having that full liquor license, to have that beer included in it right now. Currently, they're separate if you want to have liquor, beer, and wine.
Mm-hmm.
Just having that combined into the one, and not getting rid of the beer and wine license altogether.
I just think that everything needs to be looked at a lot harder than it is, and tabling it is probably a good thing. Probably getting some more facts. Come to us, talk to us. We have liquor meetings. You guys are more than welcome to come and see our situations and what we're going through, and take into consideration some of the things that I said tonight.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Humphreys? Dave?
Dave,
Oldenburg.
quick question. When do you guys meet? Do you have a meeting next
We
meeting date?
don't have anything set right now. It's not a set date. We usually plan it 1 or 2 weeks out in advance. Anybody that wants that, just get a hold of Shana and get your emails to her. It's all sent out by email, and we usually sit down and meet and discuss things that are brought up here, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Withus?
And Dave, I went to the last meeting where some of this stuff was discussed,
Okay?
and I don't remember if you were there or not.
I was not. I was
no.
out of town.
Okay. And, I sat down with Shana and we discussed a lot of stuff. And so, I have been to one of your meetings. I have one question for the city attorney. If licenses do become available, say in the next census 5 licenses become available, what's the process for somebody to apply for one of those?
Chairman Hedberg and Alderman Withus, the process in our ordinance is if there are more people who are wanting a license than there are licenses available, it's a bid or auction process.
Okay, so what if say there's 5 licenses and 3 people want licenses? Is there a set fee that they would pay?
The annual fee right now, which is $3,100 or $3,500.
So somebody could come in in 2010 or 2020 and say there's 5 licenses available, 3 people want them, he can just buy it for $31.25.
That would be their annual fee.
Right.
Yep.
So
But the actual license would be auctioned off, correct?
It would be auctioned off if there are more people who are interested in the license than there are licenses available. So if there are 5 licenses available and 6 people want them, there would be an auction or a bid process to determine which individuals were able to get those licenses.
but if there's
If
5
there's-
licenses and only 3 people, they
there's-
get it for
there's less.
$3,100.
Yep.
Yeah, right now, if you look, I don't know what we base our population, if it's 50,000,
40,000.
it's 40 now, but say, what do we estimate, their estimates where we're at right now?
Alderman Hedberg, I believe the estimated population on the U.S. Census website would allow for 5 more licenses, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, $50,000 or 50,000 people at 1,500 per. That's 33 and a third license, which I think they round up according to the.
So then that
to the
really takes the
ordinance,
price
so
of your license.
That's six. That's
Count
6
that
new
time, yep.
licenses as of 2020.
Yep.
So it may play itself out anyway.
That's correct.
The way it's looking. So, any other questions for Mr. Humphreys? Anybody else?
I'll come on very briefly. Chairman Hedberg, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Josh Walski. I live at 1340 Main Street. I've been an open advocate. I've been writing about this for the past year and a half, the fact that we need some reform to our liquor license. And it really comes down to the question, is Minot going to be open for business? Are we going to create an atmosphere in our community whereby we encourage new investment, where we can encourage new ideas, and where people who have the opportunity to make an investment and create something new in town have that opportunity available to them. And under our current regulatory policy, that opportunity doesn't exist. And we've seen that play out a couple times over the last few years. We saw it with the supper club debate. As a result of the perceived value of the license, there were some complaints leveled against some supper clubs. The city stepped in. They had to be an enforcement policy against 2 competing business types. And as a result, there were added regulatory burdens created for supper clubs. Yes, there's been a downturn in the economic cycle here in Minot, but in speaking with the owners of a few of those supper clubs, 2 of which have now closed, one of which gave back their supper club license and went back to strictly a beer and wine license, the regulatory policy, the process of having to fight against the city and have the city use regulatory and laws to enforce laws on behalf of another business type, it created a lot of unfortunate will towards the city and towards the economic situation. And it happened again last summer with the result of the Sidekicks business that was forced to be closed because of a licensing issue. We put 36 people out of work. We lost the tax revenues that came from that particular business because we couldn't find a place for them inside our licensing structure. That's the issues. That's why we're here. And I think I applaud you guys for taking a closer look at this. I applaud you guys for being considerate of previous license holders who have made significant investments. I think we all want to find a solution to that, but we also need to find a way to make Minot open for business. So it's a place where people feel comfortable investing their dollars. Thank you.
Any questions or comments there? Okay. Anybody else from the audience?
Shana Downing, 6801 27th Avenue, Northwest, Minot. Mr. Walski has said that people should be comfortable investing their money in Minot. They already did. They did. A lot of money did they invest. Not only just in their liquor licenses, in their inventory, in their buildings, in remodeling, in parking lots, in maintenance, in payroll taxes, sales tax. These people have their lives invested, and they were pretty comfortable doing that. They didn't start their business one way, such as a supper club, and then decide, hey, I think I can make more money being a bar, so let me try that. They started their businesses as bars and bottle shops. They've stuck to that. They've gone through highs and lows, and now they're looking at losing everything. Right now, just you guys discussing these liquor licenses, our liquor licenses are worth nothing. Who wants them? Who wants them in this turmoil? You know, you're looking at people who spent $250,000 because the laws are structured the way the laws are structured. Who would have thought that anyone, could ever come in and say, oh yeah, well, we changed our mind. we're just going to start selling them for $10. Who would have ever thunk that? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. You buy a brand new Cadillac, that doesn't happen. It's still worth what it was after you drive it off the lot, minus a little depreciation. It doesn't turn into a junker and worth nothing because you bought it and you took care of it. They bought licenses and they took care of their businesses. I just, I'm floored about this. We asked when we had the ad hoc that perhaps, being as grandfathering seems to be the thing to do for the downtown merchants, that perhaps we could get grandfathered in with our licenses so that we were on-off sale, and that new licenses, if proposed and passed, could just be on sale. That way, that saves a little bit of the value because it is something special. Any full liquor license can open a bottle shop. Some choose to, some choose not to. But we don't need a bottle shop on every corner either. So perhaps the 28 full liquor licenses that are out there that hold that power to open that additional business beyond the bar could be worth a little bit more, or they could lose a little less on their investments. And I didn't see that in the proposal. Change is scary, Alderman Sitma, but it's not supposed to make you lose your money. And just because somebody thinks that they want something doesn't mean they get to have it. You have to work for it. You have to earn it. You have to pay for it. You have to coddle it. You have to take care of it. You have to make a plan. You got to stick to it. You don't just get it handed to you. I mean, who does that? It's like, I want to own a bank. I can't own a bank. You start something and you take it. Supper clubs started with supper clubs. They need to coddle it. Make it a supper club. Make it a successful supper club. Not a bar. They're not a bar. Their business model was not for a bar. It was for a supper club. It was to serve meals and families and cocktails. Our business model was bar, was a bottle shop. That's what we opened, and that's what we stuck to. If there are, in the new census, 5 liquor licenses that go up for sale, and 3 people want those 5 liquor licenses at $3,125, someone's going to buy them all. One person will hold the next 5. I will guarantee it, because people aren't stupid. So that little plan is not going to work. If you can buy 5 liquor licenses for $3,125, they won't be on the market. Now, you want to talk about a monopoly? You just created one. That's my lecture for the day.
Yeah, any questions or
We should-
comments, Mr. Sitma?
Perhaps just follow that up. That is under the current statute with the census right now. That when the next census comes out, it will be reevaluated for those without any change whatsoever within our system right now. That's how the ordinance is designed for those licenses.
That's true. And like I said, if they are available at $3,125, just the yearly fee, one person's going to walk in and buy 5 liquor licenses.
And I have no doubt.
Yeah, but it's a sealed bid process.
Only if there's 6 people that want 5.
Yeah,
If there's
exactly.
3 people that want 5, somebody can buy them all.
Yeah.
3 people can buy 3, another person can buy 2. They're going to be gobbled up and held.
Mhm.
And that's monopoly. Ours, you can ask any one of our business owners here, they are all for sale. Nobody's stopping anybody from getting a liquor license. They're not greedy people. If they could get out, probably for what they had invested, and move to Arizona, especially right now, they'd be out of here. You know, the bar business isn't fancy, and it's not glorious, and it's not sparkly. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of dirty work. It's a big investment. It's massive insurance bills. You deal with fights, shootings, stabbings, all kinds of fun stuff. So it's not glamorous, and it's also not going to make anybody rich. These people have worked their lives to retire, hopefully with a couple bucks in the bank. And I'm going to promise you it's not going to be a bunch. It's that piece of paper that nobody wants to put a value on, that they were guaranteed a retirement because they could sell it. That's what they strive for. These people some of them have loans against them. And all of a sudden they don't have any value. What happens to that loan at the bank? I mean, our ordinances were written for a reason, the way they were written, not because somebody decided they wanted something else. It's just is sad. It's a sad situation for these business owners.
Any questions for Ms. Downing? Alderman Schmino?
If you could please have a meeting between now and give or take a month from now. And Kelly, if you could get her our emails, that would be...
I have your emails, Alderman Schmento. You get letters from me all the time.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. I'm done.
What would you like? What information would you like? You'd like to attend? You're more than welcome.
Just discussing, if, how many of us could attend a possible meeting without a quorum. So.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Alderman Hedberg, Ms. Downing could report back to the committee with the association's decisions or anything like that too. We're at an open meeting, and the entire committee would be able to hear that.
Back to our committee in a month, you're saying? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you have a copy of this proposal.
I do, yes.
Okay. And if you want to take that, obviously we'll be meeting back here in a month. This will be tabled. Mm-hmm. And as long as it passes here, I guess, for a table. And we'd be willing to hear, a proposal from you also.
Certainly. And also, a lot of times when I send you guys emails, responses would be great. I mean, if you had any questions or comments or anything, but it's like I send them off to a black hole. I know you guys are busy. We're all busy. But that kind of helps us move along too, because sometimes if you just put a comment, it might help us understand what's going on. Or if you ask a question, maybe you'll understand what's going on from our side. I don't know. But sometimes it would be good.
Very good. Anything else? Ms. Downing? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody else? Okay, our motion is to table. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, let's call a roll.
Sitma?
Yes.
Hedberg?
Yes.
Withis?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Shemento?
Our next item for discussion is the outdoor dining areas. I'll entertain a motion here on the recommendation from the ad hoc committee. Moved by Alderman Sitma and seconded by Alderman Berg.
I was with this.
With this? Okay. Any discussion here on dining areas? I guess I pulled this one mainly because this is a definite change in outdoor dining areas from, I believe, the city attorney in discussing with her the brought this from Fargo, if you want to discuss that and go through it a little bit with the committee.
Alderman Hedberg and members of the committee, the motion at the ad hoc committee was to adopt the ordinances that Fargo had with regard to outdoor dining areas. And so our office took the Fargo ordinance and put them into our ordinances. Essentially, we had to make some changes. They have some additional things that they have in Fargo. They have merchandise that can be placed outdoors, and they have push carts and different things like that. Since that wasn't addressed in any way at the ad hoc committee, only outdoor dining was, I just took out the references to those. They also had additional sections that referenced those for certain sections of their ordinance. So I made some changes like that, and they also have a committee that reviews encroachment agreement applications. Since the new council will be happening in June, and the current resolution with regard to the new council is to eliminate standing committees, I just said that those applications would be reviewed by the city council. That can be changed if the new council feels that's appropriate. If they want to create a different committee to review those types of agreements, that's fine, but I had it go directly to the city council since we won't have this committee anymore come June. Just a couple of the things that this ordinance allows. It would allow encroachment onto city sidewalks. Those can be granted by the city planning director if they extend no more than 42 inches beyond the property onto the sidewalk. If they go more than 42 inches, that's when it would have to be reviewed by the city council and approved there. And then that pretty much sums it up, unless there are any questions. All of the other requirements were all provided for in the Fargo ordinances.
And you'd mentioned that you had shared this with the city planner, is that correct?
Yeah. Alderman Hedberg, I did provide it to the city planning director, and he is aware of the changes and is okay with the changes. We will have to make some minor changes to our zoning code should this pass, and we can do that in the next few months, so that this will be all ready in time for spring.
And there's a payment, a permit fee, and that's set by the council. That hasn't been determined yet, obviously, with this proposal.
Right, Alderman Hedberg, it's set by the city council by resolution. That means it can be changed over time without changing the ordinance. Our current encroachment permit fee for permanent encroachments, I believe, is $100, so for reference.
Any other questions on this one? Comments? Any other discussion? Okay, let's call a roll.
Sitma,
Yes.
Hedberg,
Yes.
Withis,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Shemento.
Okay, number 9 is public consumption of alcohol beverages restricted. I guess I asked for this one to be pulled just because I wanted to get some thoughts from the chief here. I know this has been an issue that you've been dealing with here for some time, and I know I think Ms. Downing shared a concern a month or two ago on the after-hours establishments, and I think the proposal here is, and maybe I should let the city attorney discuss this. We're looking at maybe adopting something that the city of West Fargo has approved, right?
Motion first.
Let's get a motion here before we.
Motion to
Okay,
approve.
so moved by Withis.
Second.
Second by Berg. Okay. Chief, can you share with us some of your dealings here and concerns, I guess, with some
Sure.
of these, I guess they call after-hours establishments?
Chairman Hedberg and members of committee, as I outlined in my memo, and as I spoke about before, we are having issues with a number of after-hours, I'm going to call them establishments. They're not licensed establishments. They are either clubs or people that have just decided to use commercial space to operate basically an after-hour club where alcohol is being served. They present a challenge for the police department to enforce in that we basically have to address them similar like we would a drug operation, where we have to recruit informants, get informants in the door, have informants purchase or be served alcohol, and then come out, get an affidavit in front of a judge, issue a search warrant, serve the search warrant. It's very manpower intensive, and in building these cases, we have built a couple of cases against businesses doing this. But I believe this West Fargo ordinance would make our jobs easier in combating this problem. And I outlined some of what I call schemes to get around the law of selling alcohol is to ask for donations, to charge door charges to get into these places, and having an ordinance that basically would just say if you are dispensing or consuming alcohol in a commercial space, that is a violation of the ordinance, and also to hold the owner or person in charge of the premises responsible for allowing that activity to occur on their premises. That would be a tool in our ordinances that we could use to fight this particular problem. The second thing it would address is that we also have a number of businesses that from time to time give away alcohol as a way of drawing business in. That does, in my view, cause problems. There's minors' presence. They wouldn't be allowed to operate as a bar under those circumstances because they're allowing minors there. There's not necessarily food sales going on, but they're using alcohol as a gimmick to draw in customers without any kind of regulation on our part other than if they were actually giving alcohol to minors. So this would eliminate that problem as well that we see, and so that's why I've requested this committee to direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance for your consideration in the future. I'm not necessarily asking that you would adopt the West Fargo ordinance, but that you would ask the city attorney to draft an ordinance for your consideration.
Yep, that's the way it reads here, and that would be the recommendation and the motion that we have. So, any comments or questions for the chief here? I think obviously we need to give you the tools to handle this situation, these situations as they arise, and I know it's a concern of the liquor association too, and so if we can make this change, I think it'd be positive. Any other discussion? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any other discussion? Any comments from anybody else on this issue? Okay, call the roll.
Withis,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Shemento, Sitma,
Yes.
Hedberg.
Yes. That concludes our agenda.